Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is Kenny Tomlin. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yeah, Kenny Tomlin. Relatively new here to Dallas. Been here about 2.5 years, a little less. So I think that's new. And run a company that I co-founded with a good friend of mine called Court Avenue, which does digital and AI transformation for mostly enterprise Fortune 500 companies. Also have over the years done a lot of serial investing, angel investing in companies. Father of 2 grown daughters, one married, one to get married soon, engaged, and loving life here in Dallas.
Nice. I moved here, I think, almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, where'd you move from originally?
Austin.
Okay.
So I was here after college from 95 to 01,
Uh-huh.
much different time of life, much different city. I was in Austin from 2012 to 2024, and then moved here early 24.
What's the difference between Austin, for the viewers?
Yeah.
What's the difference between Austin and
Dallas.
Dallas?
Yeah.
That you've seen?
Considerably different cities, in my opinion, both great in different ways. I think Dallas is much more cosmopolitan. It's got professional sports. It's got much more elevated dining scene, a much more elevated shopping scene, obviously a world-class airport to get anywhere in the world from. So I think in terms of big city vibe, it's a much bigger city, much more cosmopolitan, much more professional in terms of attire and what you see in terms of lifestyle. Austin is a great college town. It's very creative, a lot of tech companies, very techy, very entrepreneurial. It's more about barbecue and beer joints and a little more casual. But that's fun too. I think Austin is a great city for your maybe 20s and 30s, and then Dallas is great for maybe 40s and 50s and beyond.
And what do you mean by attire, like very hippie-ish?
Yeah, it's just more casual. Even in a nicer restaurant, it'd be you'll see people dressed much more casual in Austin. Where in Dallas, people may have a sport coat on, they're wearing slacks, they're just elevated.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Talk to me about AI and the business transformation part of it. Is it, because we've had some guests on the show that come on and they'll set up like the whole enterprise for them. So they'll set up like a situation where all their invoices, all their receipts, all their stuff goes in, it comes back out. I don't know about payroll. I know one guy created like a thing on Claude where you can do his own taxes and you don't have to pay for software. How deep do you guys go with like the AI stuff?
Pretty deep. And AI is broad. So there's a lot of different companies solving different problems.
Right.
And depending on the company size too, that sort of different levels of sort of engagement. And so Claude as a platform is incredibly powerful. We actually use Claude at Court Avenue, but we also use Gemini and OpenAI, et cetera. Most of our clients on the larger size, we're really digging deep into sort of business operations and customer experiences and business insights. So I think that kind of the 3 main pillars that we're doing, a lot of custom AI work. And depending on their cloud infrastructure that's already in place, it might be on Microsoft Azure, it might be on the Google Cloud, AWS. But we are building custom systems and applications for companies that either help them serve or sell to their customers better, that help them operate their business and create more operational efficiencies within their organization, or that provide business insights and intelligence on a much more proactive and efficient basis. And the technology that we might use, like I said, varies depending on what the company's preference is, who we already work with. But that's kind of where we play primarily. So it's a lot of custom application implementation and development. And we're working with large IT organizations that are in-house as well in most cases. And so we're connecting to existing systems. And many times there's a data cleanup process that comes first. We're documenting the operations and sort of understanding where AI fits into the value chain there, et cetera. So they're pretty long, complex applications that serve very custom functions for these companies.
That's really interesting because for like the average viewer, the average, small owner or small business owner, or maybe it's a bigger entrepreneurial setup, somebody that gets AI, it's kind of like somebody like myself. They're like, okay, well, cool. It has a lot of cool features. I can kind of do this. Or like somebody showed me the prompts for this.
Right.
And then it's just like, well, wait a second. Like you want me to turn over the keys and have AI be doing a lot of this stuff, or a lot of the stuff that, like right now I have a database of over 3,000 clients. So like I was sitting there today, like, moving stuff around and doing that. Yeah. And I think instead of hiring my friend that, has nothing to do because, she graduated college versus, having AI do it would be a lot simpler. I think a lot of people just really don't understand, for a lack of a better word. I mean, they understand that you can create like cool content, or you can create like a cool Facebook cartoon character of themselves, but they don't understand the real magnitude that AI can actually do, which is wild.
Still, I think 98% of people who use AI are using the free version, right? So many people who are on ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever they use, they're not paying for it. They're using the free version, which is significantly limited in terms of its application and power. So if you just think about kind of the use cases you described, so a small business or an individual user who's thinking about AI in their personal life or small business professional life, spending the $20 a month to upgrade to Claude Enterprise, or maybe even getting on, a more expensive tier where you get more token usage and where you can use Claude Code and Claude Teams. The ability, once you get into that, to really build some transformative software applications to help you get your work done is incredibly meaningful. And the great thing about this moment too is there's an insane amount of YouTube tutorials about how to do this. And so as somebody who's like intimidated potentially by technology, you really don't need to be. Like, I'm not an engineer by training, but I'm using Claude Code and I'm using the Claude Cowork personally in my professional and personal life in a lot of different ways. And it's writing software and creating digital dashboards and things for me. And a lot of what I've learned how to do, I've learned in two ways. I've learned by watching YouTube videos and just mimicking, they're giving you a tutorial, so I'm going through it and learning. And using X. I mean, social has an incredible amount of just like quick helps. It's smaller nuggets, but there'll be hey, this is what I did. Maybe there's a link to their YouTube video or whatever. So it's hard to keep up with it all. It's moving fast. I do recommend that people sort of just like pick which one they want. Is it Claude? Okay, great. Get great at Claude. Is it ChatGPT? Fine. Pay for the $20 a month. It's worth it, and get good at it, and really learn what the pro tools allow you to do. And then just go down the rabbit hole of watching YouTube videos and watching, following people on X that are using those tools as well. And I think people can get up to speed very quickly and be really surprised by how powerful these tools are.
There's some great applications. Just really, like you were telling me, it just really depends on what you're really going for. Yeah. For me, I used Claude. Well, actually, I used X. I saw something about there's I forget now off the top. I've been trying to remember now, but there's like a newsletter that goes out and you have to pay. It's a subscription, and it's like, I think it's like $1,500 or $15,000 for the year. It's something ridiculous, and it gives you like all the information and trends and which hedge fund is buying what and all that kind of stuff. And then someone on X was like, here are all the prompts, and you can get it for free.
Exactly.
So then I sat there and I did all the prompts, and like I think I missed one, and then I was like, oh, cool, like it works. And then I was like, wait a second, if that works, then I'm wondering if it could build a trading bot for me. And then I like saw something on YouTube where this guy was like, I've tested all these different bots, and like these are the top ones. I was like, all right, well, that's what I'm going to build. So then I sat there and like went through Claude, and I built the bot. And then it's kind of still in like a trial phase, but it blows me away every time like I type it in. I love like coding and Python and all that stuff. It just, I was kind of give you some back history. Like I went to school back when like soldering motherboards and stuff was like a thing. And you go to school and like you would do that. And then they got rid of that, and they're like, well, we just create a new motherboard instead of having somebody like solder, components and stuff to it. Those were like the days of like Radio Shack, where you go there and like get little diodes and stuff, and resistors. But I always had like a kind of a knack for that. And then it just like you were saying, like it really depends on what you're really aiming for. Because I had one guest on here, and he just sets up his whole company. He does it for other companies too, where it's just like it runs and does all its stuff. And I think a lot of like entrepreneurs, small business owners think that it's just like a chatbot. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, like I have AI. Like somebody messaged me about setting up a chatbot, and like now my customers, whenever they call, they get a chatbot response, and I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. I mean, it's just not the same.
Yeah, and that's most people's personal experience is the chat experience. They're in the bot and they're using it to help them write an email or whatever, And what you just described is an incredible business opportunity for a lot of young entrepreneurs, is to literally just go into smaller businesses and say, look, we're going to help you get set up on Claude Teams, and we're going to help operationalize some of your business using AI and set up a monthly kind of service plan with those companies to kind of help them continue to grow and evolve. And those are great business opportunities. And there's a huge demand for that. There's a lot of hunger amongst companies to try to have people come in to help them understand this technology and how to implement it. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs taking advantage of that.
Whenever I hear about like new stuff, I always think about how people, and it's because I'm a compliance nerd, but like I always think about how people get ripped off,
Yeah.
and it's just, I get to see a lot of people, just like how Facebook ads and stuff got like a really bad rap now, where they're like, oh yeah, like I tried, some kid like told me that I'd get Facebook ads and I'd, get 15 leads a week or something, and then they like paid a bunch of money and they got like nothing. I kind of see that also as like just a lot of people out there just preying on people because they just, they have no idea about anything. They don't do any due diligence. They don't even use it. They're not even, Googling. It's pretty wild stuff. I had a guy that was a client, and he would take the whole offer that I sent him, and he would just upload it into AI, and AI would spit something out really quickly. There's just a lot of just really cool things you can do about it with it. I use a lot of the free stuff too.
Yeah.
It works perfectly fine for me.
For
Just
sure.
depends on how deep you want to go with it.
Yeah, and the companies, to their credit, the AI companies are providing a lot of functionality in the free version because they want to democratize the platform.
Right.
But there's a lot of enterprise level features that are available to people who pay for the subscription plan. And if you think about $20 a month, if somebody would have come to me 10 years ago and said, look, I'm going to build a platform and a technology, and started listing all the things that, Claude, I'm using as an example, will do for you. What would you pay for this? And I'd have probably said $10,000 a month. Like that would replace employees.
Easily,
that would replace, what I mean? Easy. I wouldn't even blink or flinch to think that $10,000 a month would be inappropriate for all the things that you do. And to get that for $20 a month is just, and now I do worry a little bit that over time those prices are going to go up, just like we've experienced with Uber and Netflix and other things. But I still think they're going to try to keep the prices within reason, and they're always going to have free versions to just create some level of access to this technology for everybody.
One of the things that I heard you say that you did some angel investing as well.
Yes, I have in the years, yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that. Were you just kind of like a check writer and just kind of did it, or were like people pitching you?
I've went through phases, more of an opportunistic sort of angel investor than proactive, because I've always been busy running companies.
Right.
And so I don't do it it's not how I make a living, but living in Austin, I moved there in 2012. I'd already done some angel investing prior to living there. I was in Bentonville. And our company that I had before was called Rockfish, and I ended up selling that to WPP, but we were doing digital transformation work. And that business brought me across some really good early stage, tech companies that we invested in, myself and other people in the company. And when I moved to Austin, there's quite an ecosystem there. So you get connected to other entrepreneurs, and someone calls you and says, hey, I'm putting a check into this. You should, and you do small checks. And so nothing significant. But over the years, I've done a number of different angel investments. And then for a small season, when I left the company that bought Rockfish, WPP, when I left, I was in Austin, and I helped incubate a few businesses where I was writing larger checks, but I wasn't operating them. I was more of a executive chairman kind of role. So helping them from an advice and a consulting standpoint, but not operating them. And I did that for a little bit until I started Court Avenue. But yeah, most of the angel investing I do is more just through my network opportunistically versus being out there looking for opportunities proactively.
I got into the VC space a little bit, where I just go out, like somebody would be like, hey, I'm trying to raise, money for this idea. And I would just go out to networking events and I'd meet a bunch of people. And then This show is like a Shark Tank of sorts. I mean, just people pitch me all the time, and I'm always like, I'm just very open to it, so I'm very used to it. Angel investing is actually really, really cool. It just depends on how deep you want to get with it, because you can be on the board and just be like a silent seat, or you can be, very active in it. I never like to be active. I just let people kind of do their thing, and just helped with on the money side. Talk to me a little bit about just like the business that you see right now with founders, with business owners, small business owners, entrepreneurs. I know we kind of touched on just them not knowing very much, but like what can you help with them? So somebody that's, like somebody like me that's a solo entrepreneur. Well, I guess I'm not. Well, I guess I am a solo entrepreneur, but like I have a team of 12 agents. And I do like 99% of it is me, so I wear many hats, right? So then I know like there's a ton of other entrepreneurs and small business owners that are in the same boat that, on any given day it's just like, oh my God, like, the freight train's hitting me, right? Especially like Mondays and Fridays, right? So like what can someone do, or maybe what kind of myths can you dispel for somebody that's, a solo entrepreneur, maybe an entrepreneur that's, one or two levels higher than me?
Okay, and like just to clarify, when you say myths, like in what specific part?
Like
of
an AI,
like AI coming out, like more. Is it going to be disruptive to what they do and their career?
Like how can I use it to better get going with my company, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we kind of a bit touched on this a little bit ago. In that, like, first off, I think AI is a great enabler to almost every company. And I think there'll be two types of companies, in the future: those who embrace AI and use it to grow their business, and those who ignore it and become irrelevant. And by the way, that's been true of a lot of different industries through a lot of different types of technology trends. There are those who resist it or are afraid of it and don't learn it, and they over time become irrelevant. And then there are those who embrace it early and their businesses thrive as a result of it. And that's not going to be different with AI. It is tough to keep up with everything happening in AI. I mean, even for me, and I'm in the middle of it, and it's a part of what I do professionally, and I can't keep my mind around all of it. That's why I do think it's great to, if you're a small business and you're a solo entrepreneur, pick a platform, because they're all good and they're all running about, close to each other. I really do, and they've been growing very quick with enterprise. It's hard not to recommend Anthropic, Claude, because they've done a great job on their product cycle of putting everything into a single product that's pretty easy to use. And then I just think everyone has to take the time personally to educate themselves on how to use these tools and experiment. And pick parts of your business where you're going to try to implement AI to be more efficient. So you mentioned you obviously have a robust CRM system. You're managing a bunch of different customers. You probably send them a cadence of newsletters. You're sourcing new opportunities. There's a lot of ways that AI can help you with that. And there are a ton of tutorials on YouTube and online to walk you through exactly how other solo entrepreneurs are using Claude, for example, to automate or to enhance some of those business functions. And that's where just drown out the rest of the noise, focus on Claude or focus on OpenAI. They're both great. Focus on Gemini, whatever it is, pick your tool and then just go deep on it and become an expert. And it's really, like I said earlier, the majority of people by a long shot still are only using the free versions and only using it for chat. They're just using it to help write emails. They're using, they're just, using it as a search engine basically. And so the parity between having an edge with AI and not is still, there's a huge gap between those who are using it and those who aren't. I mean, really using it. And so it's not too late, right? Like sometimes people think, oh, I'm too late to the game. No, you're not right now. It's still very, very early. And so my encouragement to small businesses and solo entrepreneurs is, you just got to get in the tools and technology. And it doesn't hurt, if you can afford it, get a good intern then, who is more technical, who wants to come in and help you, right? And learn from other people. But encourage your team members, by the way, to use AI. So if you have a small team and you mentioned, I think you have 15 people or whatever, 12 people. Right. I mean, I would really encourage you to say, hey, I want us all on Claude Teams, which is an enterprise account. It's $20 a month. But times 12, that's not a lot, but that allows you to collaborate within the tool as well and then share resources and learn from each other. I mean, I think you guys should be doing that. And I think you'd find within a few months, you guys would be like, wow, this has really elevated how we do business.
I agree with you
Yeah.
100% because I went on and I just got onto Zillow Flex a couple months ago,
Uh-huh.
and I went on there and I was just like, the great thing about AI is that the more information you put in, the more information you'll get out.
Yeah.
So if you just put in
Yeah.
like, why is my ex-girlfriend crazy?
Mm.
Well, you're going to get like a lot of stuff, right? Or if you put in like this happened and she's on these drugs and she goes,
Yeah.
and have like a whole thing, then you'd have like something that AI could work with. I'm just using that as an example. But if you get into, like, I went in and I was like, these are my numbers. This is like the script that we're using. This is the amount of leads we got. This is the amount of showings. This is how many we got over to Zillow Home Loans. I put all that stuff together, and then it spit out like some sinister stuff. It was like, you suck. You need to get better at this. And it was like it's a nice thing, by the way. But it's like, you suck. You need to get better at this, and here's a script that you should follow.
Totally, yeah. And the unlock there is too, like, okay, great. So let's say it's looking at my data and it's looking at my, the way I operate, and it's giving you some constructive criticism. Then having it put together a playbook that you can follow around improving.
Right.
Right. Like, I mean, a lot of people are using it for, you mentioned dating advice, but also for like fitness and wellness.
Right.
And it's incredible how you can use these AI tools to put together a fitness plan for you, and give it give it a bit of an overview of your personal situation and what you have access to in terms of gym or whatever, and like it will provide like a very sophisticated plan that you can follow step by step. I've used it in the kitchen. Hey, help me. And so like taking it from just informational to instructive, and then saying put together a plan, and then a great move is to then say, build me an HTML dashboard that I can use to track all this, that just lives on my local computer. You don't even have to host it externally if it's just something you're using. And then you just get this incredible web application on your local computer that you can use to track that. So that's kind of just using AI, going from an information source to something that gives you, step by step or a path that you can follow to improve, and then gives you the tools also to track your improvement. Those things make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And that's available to everybody now. That's what's awesome about it. Is it used to be you'd have to like go to the app store and find something, or you then go to Google and you're writing it down and you're kind of collecting a plan, or you hire a trainer, because they're now that's all available to us. It's incredible.
And that's one of the things that I had a guest come on, is that, a lot of these gurus, so-called gurus, that charge like thousands of dollars for you to come out and spend time at their house or at some location, all that stuff, and teach you something, which I think all that stuff is really, really great.
Totally.
But a lot of that stuff now is just, you can plug that into AI. AI can spit it out, and you can just get all the information. Even in like getting really deep and going in and being like, this is what this person is teaching, and based off of that, like, this is what I want to go to the mastermind for.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. This is what I'm looking for. And just like you said, like, give me a playbook, and then go even deeper, like give me an application. I've looked up stuff for my diet too. Like, I've looked it up and been like, hey, like everything, I'm eating clean, I'm going to the gym, I'm not losing any weight, this is what I do. And then it's like, okay, well, you're not sitting, or you're sitting too much, you're not walking enough. And I'm like, crap. Well, because like some days I wake up and I see the sun rise, and then I see the sunset, and I've been in the same spot for like the past 16 hours, just typing away. That's the life we live as an entrepreneur. But there's just a lot of applications. It's really wild when you get into it.
Absolutely.
One last question, and I thought this was a really, really good question, and I wanted to hear it from you. Where is it? One piece of advice you got early in your career, and that is the advice you still give your younger version of yourself.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think, my dad used to say, anything worth doing right. This is probably a cliche statement that a lot of dads have told their sons. But as a kid growing up, my dad was a blue-collar worker, but always worked hard. And as you do as a kid, you kind of try to skimp on some chore or assignment you're given. And when you would do that, my dad would always just say, anything worth doing right. And I just think that idea of like, if you're going to do it, just commit to it and do it well, and do it right, and don't try to cut corners. I think is incredibly important advice, especially when you're young in your career. I think exceeding expectations, going above and beyond, looking for ways to be a part of the solution and not the problem. in companies, I think is an incredible sort of way to separate yourself as a young entrepreneur or a young person professional in their life. I had a mentor who also just talked about the importance of not burning bridges. And you learn this as you're further along in your, I can use that language, further along in your professional life and entrepreneurial life, you realize how many people you cross paths with more than once. And so I do think that's good advice, is just like, even when you have a disagreement or things don't go well, just try to like end it on as good terms as possible, and don't throw unnecessary, friction into your life by just being overly critical and overly aggressive, because I do find that it's a small world and you cross paths with people over and over again. So, just keep your optionality available to you by not burning bridges. I think it's also great advice for young people.
Yeah, I think, I'm 48, so I've burned some bridges.
We all have.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of, the funny thing is, like, when I was on my journey, I always had people just kind of helping me along. I'm very religious, right? So I call them angels. Like, they come in and they kind of like leave out of your life, and you never really see them again. It's a weird thing. But now that I'm at my age, I feel like I'm doing it to other people. I'm like trying to help other people that are younger.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, you tell them something, and I could see like myself in the mirror, like me being like, yeah, okay, Chris, and then like, I hope they take the advice, or I hope they, at some point go, oh, that's why you said that. Yeah. And like, that's all I kind of really hope.
Yeah, when I was young, like, I was super competitive, and I didn't use this language at the time, but you kind of operate from a place that like life is a zero-sum game and business is. So like if you win and I didn't, then I lost, like that, you'd be angry about that. And look, I love to compete and I love to win, and I think everyone needs that edge, but life isn't a zero-sum game, and certainly business isn't. And the pot's getting bigger, and we're lucky to live in the most prosperous and amazing country and culture in the world. And there's a lot of collective ways to win together. And I think this idea that that if something doesn't go your way, or if somebody doesn't see your point of view, that you need to burn that bridge or get in some kind of existential argument. I just think you realize as you get older that really wasn't necessary. Yeah. And that just comes with time and wisdom. Right. But it's a lot harder to do when you're younger. But you learn that over time through just age and experience.
No, I agree. Yep. Kenny, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, maybe learn more about AI in your business, maybe even angel investing, where would they find you? Yeah,
so I'm on LinkedIn, of course, Kenny Tomlin. My company's website is courtavenue.com. That's COURT avenue.com. And I don't use Twitter a lot in terms of posting content, but I'm on there at kennytomlin.com is my handle on Twitter and Instagram. So I'm pretty easy to find online just by searching for my name too, Kenny Tomlin.
Kenny, I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet.